Ravens fans are always asking for it. So let's talk about Maxx Crosby to the Baltimore Ravens, a trade that I see all the time on Twitter and in NFL rumors pages. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell if you want to get notified every single time I upload a brand new video. Now, like I said in the intro, this video we're talking about Maxx Crosby. Mad Max Crosby, saying it twice, get it right. But the reason I'm talking about this today is I put out a poll earlier this morning saying, what video do you guys want to see today? So make sure to vote in those polls if you want to have a say in, what the video is. As always, comment down ideas, video ideas that you want me to talk about, questions you want me to answer. I will get to it. Mock Draft Monday every Monday. Make sure to subscribe, road to 5K before the NFL season starts for 2025. But it's finally time. Let's talk about the big name that so many people, including myself, want the Baltimore Ravens to try and bring in, and that is Maxx Crosby. Now, first off, if you don't know of Maxx Crosby, you only watch Ravens games and you miss the games that we play against the Las Vegas Raiders. Maxx Crosby is a dog. Maxx Crosby is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL and maybe the most impressive pass rusher in the NFL, because if you don't know, Maxx Crosby plays every snap, every game. Maxx Crosby does not come out and run situations. Maxx Crosby is always playing every single snap. He's probably the highest, he's definitely the highest percentage snap count player of any pass rusher in the NFL. He plays and does everything for the Las Vegas Raiders. He can stop the run. He's fantastic rushing the passer. And he has 2 years left on his contract with the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's making a lot of money. The Las Vegas Raiders are in an interesting spot. Obviously, they have new ownership. Tom Brady's joining, Al Davis. They're bringing in a new coach to help up that team. They brought in, actually, legendary head coach Pete Carroll to help coach the team. But Maxx Crosby has been very vocal about how he wants to win. And if he gets to a spot where he's saying, I got 2 years left on this contract, what am I going to do? Am I going to try and play it out and try and contend? Or do I want to tell my management, tell my ownership that, hey, I'd like to make a move elsewhere? And honestly, when I'm looking at the Raiders, a lot of people, I had somebody comment actually saying, we can't bring in Maxx Crosby because Tom Brady's going to get that situation right. They're going to get it fixed. He's going to talk with them. And I don't necessarily disagree with that statement. I think Tom Brady will put in good words with Maxx Crosby. That's a good guy to have telling your players, hey, you're going to be okay. This team's going to start winning soon. But at the same time, this team is not going to start winning soon. They don't have a quarterback. We're going to find out, how much longer Pete Carroll even has coaching. He's the oldest head coach in the history of the NFL, and he's starting this team in a complete rebuild. This isn't a situation where, hey, they have a couple of young pieces. No, this team has Maxx Crosby. That is it, right? They traded away Devontae Adams in the middle of last season, right? They got rid of Derek Carr. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew were their starting quarterbacks. Neither are players that you want to really be leading your team. And I'm going to say it, I'm not a huge fan of this quarterback draft class, especially in terms of just immediate impact players. Down the line, could a guy like a Cam Ward be, a potential Pro Bowler? Yes, I'm not going to rule that out. But I don't think year one, this is not, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Drake May. This is not that type of class. So, they're going to have to wait a couple years before they even get their star quarterback. And everybody in the NFL knows it's almost impossible to win without a good quarterback. And the Raiders don't have a good quarterback. They also have Brock Bowers, who I forgot to mention earlier. Brock Bowers is fantastic. I don't want to take anything away from Brock. I think he should be Offensive Player of the Year. I know that's a hot take, but Offensive Player of the Year, Brock Bowers, he would get my vote. But again, they're not going to be winning. So Maxx Crosby could one out. And if he does one out, the Ravens are a potential team that could land him. Now, I talked about the money yesterday, talking about Jair Alexander. I'll talk about it a little bit again today if you want more in-depth detail. Go check out that video. But Maxx Crosby's contract, $28 million cap hit this year, $24 million cap hit next year. All right. That's a lot of money. That's more than the Ravens currently have available in cap space. The Ravens have around 15 million, but they can make a lot more money happen if they're to restructure and extend certain players. Guys like Marlon Humphrey, Lamar Jackson could be restructured. We could restructure Kyle Hamilton with an extension. We can obviously get rid of Marcus Williams. There's a lot of ways the Ravens can make money, so they can make this money work. The other thing is, this is different from the Jair Alexander trade, is the Raiders are tanking. So if you want the Raiders to hold on to some of that cap space, you actually can pay a premium in order for them to do that. Why? Because the Raiders aren't trying to sign superstar players. The Raiders are trying to get superstar draft picks. So sending over, rather than a second round pick, you send a first. That's going to incentivize them to take on a little bit more of that contract, maybe in the first year. The other thing is, you can sign Maxx Crosby, renegotiate his contract, and give him an extension to get void years towards the end, backload it like most teams do with their contracts, so that it's not as big of a cap hit this season. But those are kind of the ways that the money would work. Now, for the Baltimore Ravens, why would they want to go get Maxx Crosby? Well, they're struggling. They're struggling in the postseason. They're struggling against these elite teams with their defense to get home with their pass rush. This is a good defense. This was a really good defense for the second half of the year. The problem is, whenever they face the really good quarterbacks, right? The Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, the Patrick Mahomeses, the Jalen Hurts. We played Jalen Hurts. We played Jaden Daniels. This defense is struggling to get home. When they play against the lower end quarterbacks, right? They do fantastic. But you don't win Super Bowls by beating bad quarterbacks. You win Super Bowls by beating great quarterbacks. And in order to do that, you have to force them to turn the ball over. You have to make them uncomfortable. And you have to get players that are able to change the game on a single play, because they can't get turnovers in the playoffs. Their last turnover forced in the playoffs was a Marcus Peters interception. That tells you how long it's been. Against the Tennessee Titans, the game-winning intercept or game-sealing interception back in 2021. It's been a long time. They can't get turnovers. Mad Max can absolutely get you those turnovers. And again, like I brought up earlier, he plays every snap. So he can stop the run. He plays every snap. And he's very productive against teams like the Chiefs. He can get after anybody. He's athletic. He's strong. He can win in every way. You can technically line him all across the line. I would utilize him primarily as an edge, because we do have good three techs and nose tackles on this defense. But the question is, if the Ravens make this move, they have no more money. Like, the Ravens aren't going to be able to go, hey, Maxx Crosby, we're making this deal, and then all of a sudden still have money to pay offensive linemen and pay wide receivers. So it's going to be a trade-off. This isn't, we get to keep our same team from last year. We get to re-sign everybody and then have, Maxx Crosby just join the squad. That's not what's going to happen. Instead, what is going to happen, as I reset my camera, sorry for that. Instead, what's going to happen is it's Mad Max and nobody else, or it's everybody else and no Mad Max. So it's a huge question for the Baltimore Ravens. And again, they can incentivize the Raiders to take on some of that contract by adding extra trade value. But I did want to look up what people were thinking for Maxx Crosby trades. I looked up the 33rd team. This is a company basically comprised of former players and coaches, and they get their personal opinion on what teams should do and take. So this is from former NFL players. The trade pitch that they had landing him in Green Bay, this isn't for the Ravens, but the trade was 2025 second round pick, 2026 third round pick. And I don't think that value is necessarily bad. I think if the Raiders wanted to trade him, that's what they could get. But again, it's much more likely that a team would just trade their first round pick, try and get the Raiders to take on at least half of that salary cap this year and maybe some of it next year. So I would think maybe first round pick this year, third round pick next year is more along the lines of what I'm thinking for the Ravens. And the Ravens would have a little bit of money left over to potentially extend certain players like a Kyle Hamilton, like a Tyler Linderbaum. But again, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility of what the Ravens could offer. This is a player that is a feasible trade package. The question is will, right? Do the Raiders want to make this move? No. The Raiders don't want to trade Maxx Crosby. There's no situation where they would want to trade Maxx Crosby. The only situation where they do is they have to trade him because Maxx Crosby demands it. And so the Ravens aren't going to be able to sway Maxx Crosby to request a trade. Why? That's tampering. So the only way this trade could even come about is Max Crosby would have to go to the Raiders organization because he says, hey, I got 2 years left on this deal. I want to win now. I know you guys don't necessarily want to win now, so you want a better pick. Can you please trade me to a contending team so that you can get draft capital and I can go play for a championship during the prime years of my pass rushing career? And they would say, okay. And then all of a sudden, the Raiders would open up their ears. They would answer the phone because I guarantee you right now, if Eric DaCosta calls up the Las Vegas Raiders and says, hello, I'd like to make a trade for Max Crosby. Click, like that's it. No, we're not trading him. He's the cornerstone of our team. But if he says, hey, I want out, all of a sudden they start having to listen because what, you're going to not play him for a year and hope that he plays his final year of his contract? That's not going to happen. So I do think it's possible. But again, it's unlikely because you have to have Max Crosby request that trade, and he hasn't come out and said anything yet. I wonder if it's something closer to the draft where he might say it. But overall, I really don't think this trade is going to happen. But, again, in this video, the poll said, what are the chances of us getting Max Crosby? I think it's very low. As much as I would love it, this is the trade I would make. Of all the trades that I'm going to mock and talk about in this offseason, trading for Max Crosby is absolutely the number one. He is the best possible player the Baltimore Ravens could theoretically trade for. I just don't necessarily think it's going to happen because I think Max Crosby is going to stick it out with the Raiders for the rest of his contract. And then in 2 years, I'm going to be making videos on how the Ravens need to sign Max Crosby in free agency because he's a superstar player. But thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more. Again, road to 5,000 subscribers. We just hit 4,500 last night. Mock Draft Monday is going to be coming out in 2 days. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for the support over the last week. And I'll see all of you again tomorrow.